Thursday, April 14th, you are in for the Community Hour episode 3. This is your host, Blake. It is 7 a.m. here in Las Vegas, Nevada, West Coast Life. We will kick off the show with 3-second yoga. And we are done. And then for today, we're going to start off with a couple of community news before going over to our guest in order, Alariza. And then we'll have Benjamin up around kind of 15-20 minutes from now. And, always with our show, we'll do some bad Sean Connery impersonations. Hello, everybody. Shaken, not stirred. Engagement, not swag. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it really doesn't work, does it, at 7 a.m. trying to do bad Sean Connery impersonations. But in the news this week, over at the Metaverse, Facebook has some cool things going on with their tools. Creators have more ways to earn money. We'll put a link to that into the chat. There's like a new add-on program for you to check out different ways that they're looking to do stuff. I really like what Facebook did with like a creators fund. Sometimes when you're looking at communities for content creation, it helps to like accelerate those for your content creation programs, things like that. Let me go over and put that in the chat so everybody can check that out. If you are in chat today, we've got it up and going. So as you have questions, comments for the guest, Alariza or Benjamin, let us know into the chat, and then we'll be happy to do it. So I've got a link to that into the chat. Also, really big in the news this week, Fiona over at the, let me put this up on my screen really quick because I've got it actually blanked out. 2 seconds here. Yeah, so Fiona Morgan, the director of community listening over at the American Journalism Project, just put up this nice PDF guide for community ambassador programs helping to serve local newsrooms so that they can better serve their communities. So it's a really amazing guide. And so don't just think about this for like local newsrooms, things like that. It's a really interesting. So if you've got an ambassador, super user champion program, be sure to check this out. There might be some wrinkles or tactics in there that you can also apply back to your program. So I'll put that over into the chat. So that just came out this week. Really cool guide for you to check out. Let me stop showing this thing. And then just a couple of some things coming up on the community hour before we get over to our first guest really quick. Coming up next week on episode 4, I've got Melissa Rosenthal, the Chief Creative Officer at ClickUp. If you've seen the amazing stuff that they've been doing, they've got reaction videos, they've got rap videos, original rap videos too. And just go to the ClickUp's like YouTube. It is absolutely crazy. Some of the best B2B marketing on the planet right now is going on with Melissa. And then not only do we have Melissa on, we've got Mary Lou Gauthier on from Meetup. And so we power Community Hour with Meetup. And so we've got someone from there to talk about Meetup, everything going on, talking about the pricings, things you can do utilizing Meetup Pro like we do. So really cool if you're looking for a platform like that. We'll have Mary Lou on to talk about it. And last but not least, next week, we've got Jepta Abu coming on. Really amazing speaker. A lot of great content. Definitely can't wait to get him onto the show. And then on May 5th, episode 6, just hot off the press, we've got Jillian Betchlich from Zapier. You know, everybody loves the Zap stuff to integrate. So we've got their demo on our show on the May 5th. And then from Capsule Video, one of the most amazing video tools you can use for your community, we've got Mary Ann Bennett coming on. And then one of my favorites, Jason Yee, who's spoken with me in the past before with developer relations. He's director of advocacy over at Gremlin. He's going to be on the show, and with the head of developer relations at Skyflow, ex Google, Sean Falconer, will be on May 5th. And then the May 28th show, we're going to be talking about all things Web3. So I have some information going out with that today. But that is it. Bad Sean Connery impersonations are over. We'll keep working on those. I promise. Maybe like on the outro, my body will wake up enough, and this Starbucks coffee is like really good. It's like, woo, really get us going here for today. So let's bring over our first guest today for episode 3, Alariza, Senior DevOps Engineer at S-RM. Longtime friend, former community member. Alariza, come up to the stage. How is it going?
Hi, Belek. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope you like the metal music.
no, I don't have my guitar here, but yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I have been playing a little bit of violin for a couple of years, but
Yes.
since I became a DevOps engineer, I stopped playing music because I got busy all the time with the development, operations, and different things. But actually, this is something I'm thinking again to start playing some sort of instrument. But yeah, yeah, it's going well. It's Thursday before the banking holiday here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are just looking forward for the holiday. But I'm quite also busy.
All right. Yeah. So if you're in the chat, let us know where you're from. We've got our first guest up, Alariza. So when we last talked to you, Alariza, you're over in the Netherlands. So do you
Yes.
have some updates on your work and life for the audience since then?
Yes. Actually, it's a new challenge I have. I got an interesting job at SRM. SRM is one of the leading company in the cybersecurity world, and I said it's a kind of new challenge for me because it was not only a new job, it's also a new country, new culture. We can't imagine how interesting is to be in London, and the atmosphere is crazy. Yeah, it's quite international, and it's quite after after the whole situation we had after pandemic. I think it's quite interesting to see that the life back is in a normal situation. It's quite active, and anyway, I had an interesting experience in Netherlands in different roles, and but this role was quite interesting for me because it was quite in the new industry for me. I have been working in the financial industry in the past 20 years, but this was something new for me, and I really wanted to experience a new challenge, and I'm quite excited with this new role. And the type of the business is quite different to the banking industry, to the fintech, and even though there are some similarities in terms of the security and these kind of things, but again, it's quite a different challenge. So yeah, I just thinking maybe it's a good time to take on a new challenge.
And what are some of those new challenges of starting a new job, especially when you're going from one country up in the Netherlands all the way over to the UK and London?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's yeah, I try to answer this very shortly, but
Hmm.
it's a quite complicated, I mean, situation whenever you start a new job, because basically when you start when you are working in any company, you make a lot of relationships, you make a lot of connections, and suddenly when you leave the company you lose all of that, and then you start with the new company, and in the new company there are a lot of things that you don't know, there are a lot of people you don't know, and you need to start actually gain a lot of knowledge about where you are. And at the same time, you need also to understand the business. You need to understand how people have been working before, how they are working now, and how you can find your position between these people, how you can start understanding what is going maybe wrong or what can be improved, to find out how you can deliver some value to the business. I mean, this is a quite complicated situation, I would say. And I found that also there are not so many material out there to tell us how to deal with this situation. We always tell people how to be good at the interview, how to actually manage to satisfy the expectation for the interview, for the hire. But we don't tell people, okay, now you got a job, now you are going to start your new job, it's a first day, what you should do. So it's really difficult. And basically, what I learned after 20 years is that the one of the most important part is the human part of the job. So no matter what is your role, in which level of technical knowledge you are sitting, the most important part is the human part. It means that the people you are working with. I mean, the relationship you are going to make. And because if that doesn't happen, it doesn't matter how good you are,
Mm.
it doesn't matter how good the company is. If that connection doesn't happen, that click doesn't happen, then it doesn't work. So that's why I think that the first most important step when you start a new job is to get to know people, is to understand why they are doing what they are doing. And rather than just being skeptical because you want to deliver something new, it's better just to understand. It's better just to listen. You have to have a really bigger ears in the beginning rather than just talking, because you have time to talk. First you need to understand, because before that understanding, you might not deliver something useful for them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start out building trust, right? So without
Yeah.
trust, then
Yeah, actually, trust, as I mentioned with the making relationship, I was really meaning the trust, because with making the relationship, you try to gain trust. You try to tell people you are not going to take their position or their place. You are going to help them. You are going to work with them. You are going to learn from them, or maybe you are going to teach them something. And in that way, you will start to gain some trust from people. People will start to listen to you rather than just being skeptical. Because one of the most difficult situation I found in last 3 years as a DevOps engineer is because as a DevOps engineer, you usually go to the company and tell them, okay, this is the CI/CD, this is the best practices. It's difficult because you have to actually ask people, kind of, to change the existing way of working and replace it with something better. So you can't actually do this in an imperative way. So you need to spend some time. You need to try to let them to understand why we need to do follow these things. And because of that, you need to actually sit in the same level as people, and give them that kind of feeling that you are there to help them. So I mean, this is a really difficult moment that you need to pass on. And I think the most important part is to have this thing in your mind that you are going to help them. This helping, I think, helps both sides, even yourself, because you know that you are going to help something, you deliver something which makes life easier for people. And at the same time, for the other side also, there is something new for them to learn. And I think that makes our actually process easier to integrate to the new environment.
nice. And we are here. It's 7 a.m. in Las Vegas time. Episode 3 of the Community Hour here with their special guest Alariza. So one interesting part for you, Alariza, is as kind of a life. I came to know you as a community member. So for a lot of us on the community side, we don't, there's people out there that don't spend a lot of time that talk to community members. So as a professional in this industry, where we've got software development, things like that, what's important for you as being a member of a community? What are those things that you're looking for that's like, this is where I'm going to stick around? Or maybe like what's one or two like warning signs where you're like, oh no, and then you want to like run the opposite direction?
Well, you can't imagine. A lot of improvement happened in my career in the last, I would say, maybe 10 years. It happened from the community. But how it happened, it was not necessarily directly. Many times it was indirectly, by the fact that I actually joined the community. I talked to people, and I got a lot of interesting knowledge about what's happening in the different countries, in the different industries. And in this journey, I would say I got to know so many people like yourself. And time to time, we had a really nice, interesting chat, regardless of the jobs we had. We really had interesting talks. And I think being a member of community, it's something unique, I think, in our life, I would say, by having these technologies, because maybe 2 decades before, we didn't have such a opportunity to connect with each other from UK to Las Vegas and talk to each other at the same time. Many people can watch us, and we are also open to connect to people and help them. And I think this is kind of magic for me, that nowadays we can easily connect with each other, we can help each other. I have a feeling that there are a lot of interesting people in the IT industry, that they have a really, really wonderful experience, knowledge. But unfortunately, because of the nature of the IT job, they're quite busy. They don't have any time to spend on the community, and they also don't know how interesting it is to be part of the community and also share their knowledge. Because I think it's good, useful to keep this community. And I think during the pandemic, I would say one of the things kept me really strong was the community. I had a quite difficult life. I lost my job. I had to jump between the several jobs. And I would say one of the things that made me motivated even during the pandemic, working from home without job, was being a part of the community, still being able to help some people. And yeah, I think it's easy to talk about the community for hours, but yeah, as you said, it's really important to to be part of the community, help each other, and also learn from each other. Even it doesn't matter if you're part of the community, you really need to deliver something. No, you can also give feedback to people, listen to what they are saying, and reflect to them, because it's good to actually reflect to each other.
Great. And then we'll do a quick lightning round question. So, what are one or two things every community in software development should have? Go.
Sorry, can you rephrase the question?
Lightning round, really quick. So, what are one or two things every software development community should have? One or two things.
One or two things. I think they should. I would say every software community, they should be open for people to actually come, and they need to give people to speak up, to talk. And I think there are a lot of nice developers. Maybe they don't get a chance to show up, to show to the people how good they are, and most of the companies are busy with their operations. So I would say, if I say one thing, I would say it's to try to identify the developers, that they are actually hardworking, and but they are not really as visible as we are, and try to get put some light on them, and to to help us to know them, to learn from them, because as I said, there are a lot of interesting people out there.
Great. And then when you're going to a software development community, what are like one or two warning signs, something that you just absolutely hate? You're just going to like run in the complete opposite direction. It's like you're going into their lobby, their building, you're going into the software development community. But what is like one or two like warning signs or something you just absolutely hate where you're just like, forget it, I am out of here?
Yeah, I'm not like that, but yeah, there is one thing I would say. I'm a realistic person, and I see the life as a part of the positive experience and negative experiences we have. Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sad, sometimes we are successful, and sometimes we fail. I think I would like to see the communities which they are not just talking about the bright side. They also talk about the failures, because basically we learn a lot more from failures rather than the successful part. What I have been missing from the most of the conferences in the last couple of years, specifically the DevOps conferences, was the fact that when you go to these conferences, you see a bunch of successful big companies, which they don't really talk about their failures. and they create a kind of image for people that those companies are the ideal companies, that nothing actually fails. But we know that's not true. So that's why, if I actually narrow down to your question again, I would like to go to communities that the people are really open about their failures, about everything. And in that way, I think we can start open up about everything, about our jobs, about the way of working, human part, and maybe we get somewhere. We learn something from each other.
Great. And then just kind of last two questions here for you. So the one question I have to ask you before we go is, what's the worst buzzword right now in the software development industry that's overused and that just drives you crazy? What is the worst buzzword right now?
I think shift left. There are a lot. No, actually, there are a lot of the buzzword. Buzzword are the crazy things. It makes me mad. If you want to make me mad, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can start using buzzword. Uh, yeah, I think shift left was one of the funniest one, but there are a lot. I think there are a lot of buzzwords. People keep making the buzzword. Actually, that we are really creative. What I could say, for me, after 20 years being a software engineer, is to being result oriented and to deliver something. So I don't care about the methodologies. I don't care if you work agile or Scrum or waterfall. I don't care if you work under DevOps or SRE or any other methodologies, which it doesn't come yet. But what I would care is to see if we can do something together. When I work in any company, I also measure myself after a couple of weeks to see if I was able to do something, or even if I was able to learn something, because both are important. And I mean, at the end of the day, we really need to be disciplined, to be structured, and follow some methodologies, because that's how we can make things more structured. We can scale up in that way. But anyway, we shouldn't really over obsessed on the methodologies or the buzzwords, because that's how we just created some terminologies that people even don't understand what that means.
Nice. And then last question before I let you go, and it was great to check in with you today for just an amazing career journey, and definitely right. Starting new places, you don't always get all the runway and ramp and all that stuff. So last question today, do you have any bad Sean Connery impersonations for our audience?
No, I'm not prepared for that.
Do you have any celebrity impersonations that you can do before you let?
Celebrity
Our
person.
favorite movie quote, favorite TV series quote.
Oh my God, that's a quite difficult. No, I don't have it in my mind, but I'm actually, yeah. At the moment, nothing comes to my mind. But yeah, I'm doing the impersonation. Maybe next time I prepare something, at least for the next one. At least I can make an excuse to invite myself to your other program again.
Yes. What do they call it? Quarter pounder in Paris, for sure. Yeah, it was great. Congratulations on the new gig out there.
Thank
We
you.
put a link in the chat to Al Ariza, former community member. So it's always great if you're running a community, stay in touch with your community members as you go from job to job. People like Al Ariza are amazing speakers. So for anybody watching this looking to get a guest on DevOps, SRE, amazing speaker to book for your conference, your virtual event, things like that. And also really great if you need Sean Connery impersonations, be sure to reach out to Alariza over in the UK, London. Thanks so much, Alariza, and I'm
Yeah,
sure we
thank
will
you.
be in
Thanks for
touch.
having me. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks. Up next, we've got Benjamin Aronov, the developer relations at Vonage. So very excited to have Benjamin here with us today. We will get Benjamin up to the stage. Benjamin, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Good morning. For us, it's I'm here in Tel Aviv. We're closing out the day, closing out the week, getting ready for Passover. Um, but
Nice.
yeah, happy to be with you here. And I saw that you put DevRel. So I work in the DevRel team at Vonage. I am online community manager for the Vonage team, and happy to be here.
Great. So tell people a little bit about your role there. I know you touched on it a little bit in terms of what you're doing. And also for those not familiar with Vonage, kind of like what that is and how developers watching it or other people can learn more about it.
Yeah, sure thing. So I work in the developer relations team. We sit inside the API group inside of Vonage. So Vonage, our APIs, we offer communications APIs. So if you want to add voice calls, SMS, other messaging services like social, like we have Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Viber. Also, in addition to SMS, we have MMS. And then we also have a video API. So if you want to drop in video streaming, like right now we're using Restream, but if you wanted to throw that into your application, you could do that with our video API. We offer a few different solutions there, like depending on how much customization you want. And then we also do security stuff like 2FA through the SMS. So we have quite a few different products and tools. It's a massive company. We are one part of it. We have some other communication products, but for developers, APIs are definitely like the most interesting part.
And, yeah, integration's like so big. And when you say massive, how big is massive?
Massive for me. This is my first like corporate gig. I think we're at like 2,000 plus employees. Nice. So I sit in the Tel Aviv office. It's a big R&D center here. We have about 150 people in this R&D office. And then we have another big office in London, another big office in New York, big office in San Francisco, an office in Singapore, and then we have tons and tons of remote. The company's really great. It's been very remote friendly since even before like COVID started, but now company's been totally like remote optional all throughout the pandemic and going further forward. So as a big company, we always have lots of open positions. So if anyone out there is listening and is looking for a new role, definitely check out Vonage Careers, get in contact with me, and I'd be happy to make an introduction.
Nice. I'll put a link to that into the chat. And then for a lot of people coming into developer relations today, a lot of them say, hey, I'm an accidental community manager, or I'm an accidental developer relations manager with like 5, 10, or like when I grew up, I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to be working in DevRel one day, or hey, I'm going to be a community manager one day. So what is your career journey kind of look like to sort of get there? Did you have this like all planned out since you were a kid? I'm going to grow up, be a DevRel manager. How did you get into it?
Yeah, for sure. That was, I'm 30, so DevRel started, let's say, relatively, I don't know, I think people put it at like 15, 20 years ago. So yeah, obviously I did not say, when I grow up, I want to work in developer relations. Didn't even exist. I guess it was kind of always in the works as far as, I was talking to somebody recently. I was talking to somebody young, I think like Gen Z, and we were talking about the good old days. I was trying to explain like what Facebook was back in 2006 when I first joined it when I was like 13, and then explaining that the internet used to be for basically for only for young people and for nerds or geeks, as you might say, like the good old days of the internet when, let's say, normies weren't really on there. It was just for really young people and nerds. And so, yeah, so it's probably, I think since the time I can remember, like 4 or 5, in my family, I was always kind of the one who was, when there was an issue with the computer, like call Ben. But no, when I was finishing school and then when I went to university, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I studied philosophy and econ, which very lucrative degrees. But I thought that I wanted to go on to law school. And I worked for a lawyer for about 5 years throughout college and then a bit after. As an intern, kind of like paralegal, and really got to see like law up close and personal. Worked for him for the majority and then worked for another firm for a bit. And it was in that period that I realized, oh man, I do not see myself being happy as an attorney. I think can make a lot of money, can do some interesting stuff, but I don't see that. I don't see being fulfilled and being happy balancing each other out. So then had a few years, let's say, finding myself, finding my way. And when I was leaving school, I wanted nothing to do with anything math. And I always thought, I took a couple. I'll never forget. I took a CS course in university, and we were studying, and the poor professor, she was like an adjunct professor, not so long in America, and I remember having a really hard time understanding not just the material but also understanding her. And then we had our tests on pencil and paper, and so in essence, I was just like memorizing syntax, and that was just this does not, I'm not a person who loves to memorize in general, and when you're doing it on pen and paper, it's not like you see the results, and that just completely lost me as an intro to CS without getting to actually see anything run and build. And then years later, there was actually a boot camp that opened up in St. Louis, where I'm originally from. So basically, when Jack Dorsey and Jim McKelvey, the founders of Twitter, who from St. Louis, they wanted to open up Square in St. Louis, and then they started to go through, the process and realized there aren't enough developers. There's not enough talent in St. Louis. So then they pivoted and said, well, let's open up a school to solve this other problem. So there's a program called Launch Code, which was really great. And that kind of got my feet wet a bit in code and software. That was a good intro to an intro. And I realized when I actually was touching the code and I was actually making something work and saw something resulting on the screen, wow, that was great. That feeling was, I think, something that I never felt before. And it was, it's, as anyone who's been a developer knows, it's like building something with your hands. You have, okay, I know exactly the finish line. It's done. It works. Green light. I can rest. I can go to bed. Leave it alone. And that was, I think, the problem also a bit with in university of law and all of that is when you write a paper, it can always be better. There can always be. I had a real trouble of turning a 2-page paper into a diatribe, into a long thesis. And with the code, it was great because it's okay, it needs to do X. Until X works, you keep working, and then as soon as your test turns green, boom, I'm done and I'm happy. And so that was kind of my start. Then I moved to Tel Aviv, ended up enrolling. I had some work in the some experience in the US doing a internship for insurance tech startup. But I'll be honest, and this was 2015, so I had a few stop starts trying to learn codes, probably starting around 2009, 2010, and again around 2012 with all of the kind of online material. And even by 2015, I had that good program, but I never really, looking back on it, I didn't really I never found myself a community of people around to kind of keep pushing me and where you can go when you're starting out to hey, it seems like it should work. I looked at everything I could possibly find on the internet. It seems like it should work. And then just having that second pair of eyes and be because you put a comma here, it's broken. And not having that community to just spot check every once in a while, that really stopped me so many times. And then I came to Tel Aviv. It was a real spontaneous decision. I decided 3 weeks before I arrived. So I was I knew that Israel was going to be a place where it's as much who you know as what you know. So signed up for another boot camp here called Low Wagon. And then that's where I fell in love with Ruby and Rails, and finished that course. They gave me my first job, worked there for a couple of years teaching and managing that community. And then it was through actually pushing our teachers in the course and also students to attend meetups and connect with the bigger tech community in Tel Aviv. Came to a meetup at Vonage, saw that Vonage had this beautiful roof, amazing office. I was kind of I don't know if you remember, Blake, but Vonage used to have these really obscure TV commercials back in the day, a good, 15, 20 years ago. They had a bright orange logo, and it was back when they were just their main product was VoIP. And I came into the office, and that's what I remember. I was I know Vonage, the name, but they do something with the phone? Why do they have a huge, beautiful R&D center in Tel Aviv? And then that was when I was kind of okay, I want to work here. Let me figure out what's happening. And yeah, now it's been 2 years and I'm working in DevRel, like officially working in DevRel, and working as an online community manager, and it's great. Yeah.
Nice, nice. All the way from like Twitter and Jack Dorsey and St. Louis, that school, to sort of, propel you. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's like the career journey is not like that straight path sometimes. Like this one or two decisions that impacts you like two stops, three stops later. So that was just really amazing to hear. And then since you've been at Vonage, what's that kind of journey been like for the community? Did you sort of inherit it from scratch? And sort of like when you started to where it is today, what are some of the things you did to sort of build up that Vonage community?
Yeah. So definitely didn't build anything from scratch. The API department at Vonage was actually two different companies that were acquired. One, Nexmo, so that's like all of the voice and SMS and messaging, and then TalkBox, which is the video API now. And so especially Nexmo had a strong. It's a company based out of London, so we have like their old headquarters. We have a huge office there, and they did that. Like the DevRel team, when I came in, was really like in a transition where the company was transitioning out of the old Nexmo brand into Vonage, and really integrating into the greater parent company. And so there's a lot of great stuff that was like a lot of foundation that was laid. There's still a lot of the Nexmo people have moved on, but there are definitely still a lot of remnants in the culture that remains. So that team was started by Phil Legater, who's got an amazing strategy for DevRel, for any folks who are building out like a DevRel team called ARP. And so yeah, that team was built into the product team. And so I came into the company really, honestly, I started middle February 2020 as COVID was kicking off. So COVID threw a big wrench into things. We also have had some change in our corporate leadership, and basically it's been an interesting couple of years. So when you say like how did the community, we had definitely inherited a community, but there's been a big change in let's say vision and strategy and all of that. So it's been nice to be a member where there's a lot of input that I have, and a lot of freedom. And yeah, and so what do I work on? I came on as an online community manager, as a new role for the team, and basically the role is to manage we have a Slack workspace for our developers. So that's like the main priority, but then also managing all of our online platforms where we're engaging with developers. Twitter, for instance, takes up a big part of my day. Making sure that like all of our content gets out, right, so that developers know all of our blog posts, our videos, all the events we're coming to. We're doing really a lot of events now that in-person events are back. It's a bit overwhelming. It's this pendulum the last 2 years of everything going virtual, then everybody's sick of virtual, then Twitch is a thing. Now everybody's on Twitch, so there's too much noise, and then after a year of that, everybody's like, the last thing I want to do is spend any hours of my day looking at another Zoom call, like another streaming video. And so now it's this huge rush to get back to in person. It's been fun, but yeah, it's been a roller coaster. It's been a good couple of years. Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And do you have like one or two sort of like community stories that really jump out, like something just awesome happening with another developer or member, or any kind of success story since you've been there?
Yeah, I'll say there's one story that I always really remember. So 2020 for the Hacktoberfest, we decided a little bit late in the game, but with some time, we decided we're going to be one of the big sponsors of Hacktoberfest with DigitalOcean. And so at the time, it's a big sponsorship. It was a lot of dollars, and also like a lot of potential for visibility, right? So we really accelerated a lot of our department processes and goals and everything to get ready for that. And at the time, we had a champions program, brand new champions program that we had just launched, and And so, sorry, I got lost a little bit in my thought. Okay, so during the Hacktoberfest, obviously we were running a lot of events, and we had a lot of promotion to do. So I was taking care of all of that. And also, in addition to just promotion, I wanted to actually genuinely, interact with the community members. So interacting with them on the Discord, and then also just with Hacktoberfest, just by the pure volume, you can go by hashtag Hacktoberfest on Twitter, and every minute, you're seeing somebody tweeting about it, saying, "This is my PR," or "This is what I'm doing," or found this resource helpful, blah blah blah. So I literally just went on the hashtag. I was going the first probably week or so, going hashtag and spending a couple hours every day of just reaching out to people who are contributing, and especially first time contributors or people who seemed really excited. And it was in the first couple of days when people are already having completed their pull requests. And so I was saying, oh, if you completed that pull request, well, Vonage has we're doing our special giveaway. We had some really nice socks that we were giving away. And just by reaching out, like by putting in kind of the dirty work, let's say, of going through dozens of tweets and reaching out, I met this individual, reached out to this individual, Sudiptu, and he was really excited and energetic. Well, he went on. I invited him, to we were throwing events throughout October for people to know about our products and all of our initiatives, and to help people with their pull requests and that kind of thing. And so he attended, and then we had a follow-up conversation. He was really excited. He talked to some of our team members. Then he got plugged in with our he ended up not doing a simple little pull request, to check the box, but he ended up doing some pretty nice features, which helped some of our open source libraries. And then we have a developer spotlight program, which pays $500 for people to write a blog post for us. And he was a university student at the time, so he immediately went off and wrote Spotlight article, which again, his Spotlight article wasn't something simple. It was really robust. Like, it obviously would have taken days and days to complete. So he did that. Then the next thing was he basically just kept, in the community industry, we have, these hierarchies of interactions that we want to keep increasing the engagement from our community members and pushing them up. And it was like watching the member just rise, according to one of these textbooks of, he started following us on Twitter, then he attended an event, then he found out about Spotlight, then he talked to our team members, then he got involved with our Champions program. He joined our Champions program at the end, and then he ended up being our most active member in the Champions program. And this all literally started by just doing the hard work of following the hashtag, reaching out, and then following up and, having those conversations. So that was cool. That was really nice.
And the interesting thing you said there is, so everybody has the sleeves. And so as community, there's kind of the approach of, we'll put out content and we'll just kind of sit back. And then what you talked about, where you've got the sleeves, let me just roll up my sleeves here and dive into the conversation. I'm not just going to wait for people to talk to me. And you went out there and you started to engage with them. And I think you made a very important part, because CMX, this professional organization for community professionals around the world, just did an industry report. In the industry report, a lot of developer community programs out there, one of the biggest things they were struggling with is what? Engagement. And so we just saw, in your example of this wasn't a huge budget. This was your time engaging with members, and you never know where that one could be a passing conversation or the start to the journey to become that super champion. So any other thoughts from you in terms of just your kind of approach to engagement with your users, or for other people that are out there going, Benjamin, we are struggling so bad with our developer program, with getting them engaged and involved. What can we do?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's gonna sound real obvious, but I don't know if it was. I was raised by two parents who were both, let's say, they don't necessarily. They have a lot of energy and they are very engaged. My mom was a journalist, and she doesn't know how to be quiet or also just leave people alone. She's always curious to ask people a million questions and find out their background and My dad's pretty much the same. He was never a journalist or anything like that, but he's also very, once he's sitting next to someone, he doesn't know how to just like sit next to them. He's like, hey, so, he starts up a conversation always, and very, let's say, people. And I definitely got that from them. And I think the biggest thing is, I don't know how to teach it necessarily, but I think where we are today in society, especially, like, we're always behind screens and we're behind our phone, and I know it's sometimes scary, and sometimes, especially now, a lot of the messaging that comes out is like, leave people alone until like, people will tell you when they want you to come and talk to them. I think a lot of times, like, I just got back from a conference a couple weeks ago in Amsterdam, and the amount of our booth got placed kind of in a weird place. There was a first floor and a second floor, and the second floor, not a lot of people necessarily knew about until later in the day. And we were put right at the top of the stairs of like the second floor. So that was cool. Like, coming up the stairs, the first booth you see is us, but you would see people coming up the stairs, and as they're coming up the last couple of stairs, and their eyes kind of make contact with you, and there's that 20, 30 feet between you and them. And they, you could feel the hesitation of, like, where it's that in-between space of, we could say hello, but we're a little bit distant, and it's like, who's going to make the first move? And, like, I think the biggest thing is just make the, like, I don't know how else to say, but make the first move and say, like, you can't have engagement until people feel comfortable. And part of making them feel comfortable is not being scared to initiate that interaction, right? And I don't know, for me, myself, a lot of it is sometimes dumb jokes or memes or whatever. And yeah, I think you just need to get the conversation going. And most people need that encouragement. Most people aren't community, like, let's say, managers or leaders or DevRel people who love to talk and talk and talk, especially in the dev world, right? Most people want to be left alone. But if you can have that awareness of, okay, when is appropriate and when is not, but most of the time veer towards saying, hey, I'm Ben. What do you think about, I don't know, such and such, and get that conversation going and figure out what is the value that they're looking for. But they're not going to come up and tell you, hey, this is the thing I'm looking for, because maybe they don't know it until you start talking, or maybe, it's uncomfortable for them to say, this is why I'm here. Yeah.
And I think it's the distinction, and kind of what you're saying is, don't be afraid to have a conversation. Whereas so much in developer world, software development, it's people initiate conversations with marketing or some type of pitch, right? So the separation here is, don't be afraid to have a meaningful conversation with somebody. Throw out the marketing and sales pitches, things like that, and just dive in and engage with the conversation. And as human beings, a lot of times we will be like responsive to that. And I think also, like, in developer, what I hear a lot is there is this introvertedness, but there's a huge extroverted aspect to developers on the things they're passionate about, right? And it fries people's brains. They're like, wait a minute, like, in-person conferences are huge with developers? And it's like, yes, again, like, developers are very extroverted about the things they're passionate about. And as you sort of put out, when you're doing it in a meaningful conversation, not a marketing or a sales pitch, hey, good things can happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, at that Amsterdam conference, we were giving away an Xbox, right? And so many people,
I'll take it if you still have it.
Well, you should check. Actually, this is one thing that I did want to plug for sure, is that we are now that we're back at in-person events, and if we're at a lot of conferences, we are giving away lots of really nice prizes. It's funny how those budgets accumulate after a couple of years of not going. And so definitely, for anyone watching, check out, I'll drop the link here, the community page and our developer portal. And you can always see what upcoming events we have. And we are always giving away pretty cool stuff. But all I wanted to say was, we're giving away an Xbox, and people come up and, I say, make the cheesy, marketing joke, like, so, hey, you want to win an Xbox? And they're like, oh, what do I have to do? Sign, give you all of my personal data? And I'm like, nah, just a little bit of data. And, like, it's the best chance you'll have to win an Xbox. But then as we're talking, there was quite a few times where then all of a sudden I understood people, if they knew about Vonage, if they didn't know about Vonage, there was quite a few conversations I had where they knew us under our old name, or that they didn't necessarily know us, but they were familiar with our competitors. And then that's where you kind of then can start asking them, okay, so you know about our competitors, what was your experience with them versus, what are you looking for? And we actually had probably like 5 or 10 people that we ended up giving like full on demos to, just starting with that stupid, silly, hey, you want to win an Xbox? And like, I want you to win an Xbox. I don't want you to, I'm not like this. I don't want you to sign up for $1,000, dollars of APIs. I want you to win the Xbox and just like see that we have some cool stuff. And yeah, if you see a blog post that you like, it'd be great. If you want to give me an idea for a blog post, that's even better.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah, so if you're out there today, if you have ideas for blog posts, let them know. We've got a link to the chat in there for their events, contests. I think most people want an Xbox, or it's still one of the hard things to get. 2 more questions before I let you go today on this Thursday, April 14th. So for a lot of, so you're working in developer relations today. And so for a lot of people that are like in their career or just about to start their career, and they're saying, hey, Benjamin, I'm thinking about having a career in developer relations. What should I know, or what should some of these generations coming up, or someone wanting to make a career change, what should they know before they come into this world?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think definitely, right, I think it depends on what you want to do in developer relations, right? There's quite a few pillars, but I think I noticed we had a little bit of a change on our developer portal recently, and now our tabs at the top, there's 4 tabs, and they kind of describe they sync really well with the 4 pillars we have in our department, which is documentation, tooling, community, and then outreach, which is like content. So basically, do you want to do the documentation side? Do you do tooling, which is a bit more engineering heavy? Do you want to actually build out like integrations and make sure that our SDKs are working properly and work closer with the engineering team to build out new features and functionality? Do you want to work in community? So that's like kind of the fun stuff we know about, right? Like going to events, interacting with members, managing an online community. The content also is more fun stuff with what we call outreach. So that's like writing blog posts, and that's somewhere in between. And that's personally where I like to live in. I do work in the community team, but I do get a bit, like in my role, a bit of freedom to do like outreach whenever I see a good opportunity. And so I think underlying all of that, there are definitely positions in DevRel where you don't need to necessarily be technical, especially in community. You don't really need to be so technical. Now with low code and no code, there's opportunities even in content creation where you don't really need to be so technical. I've heard from plenty of people that to do documentation, well, you don't necessarily need to be technical, like super technical, because the document working with the engineering team, you're kind of you're testing the documentation yourself. So you're finding like in some ways it's even better the less technical you are, because you're asking questions that aren't being taken for granted, right? That you're writing the documentation in a way that anybody can understand your product and use it well. That being said, I do definitely think having a coding background to get into DevRel is probably almost a prerequisite. And sometimes I wish that I had done a bit more engineering before I had totally moved into DevRel. But I think it's like the perfect intersection for people who have technical skills, who have developed in the past, and then who kind of miss the people aspect, right? That's what I always say, is that I found the perfect role for me because it's somewhat like it's technical. Sometimes I wish it was a bit more technical, but it still allows me to use my people skills, my creativity skills, and then also it really allows me to use my ADD brain, where it feels like every day I'm doing something new, and it's not like I'm working on some one long project forever and ever and always. Every time you want to come up with a new piece of content, it's like it feels like it's a whole new project, right? So, yeah, I think that's definitely my advice is learn to code, probably also at some point learn to write, whether that's like content or technically. But yeah, if you have ADD, it's a great career path.
Nice. And then the last question as we wrap up here, we've got Benjamin, Community Developer Relations at Vonage. Links to the chat for a lot of the amazing stuff that they're doing. And the last question for you today, same as Alariza, any bad Sean Connery or celebrity impersonations that you do or favorite movie quotes before he let you go for your day?
I'm trying to decide Sean Connery or Zoolander. Which you pick for me, Blake.
Zoolander.
What is this, a school for ants? That's my favorite line.
I haven't seen that one. I need to go back and rewatch that.
All right, thank you, Blake. Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have a little bit of silly, but it's just really amazing just to hear from you and everything that's going on. Just amazing show today. We had Alariza on from London, and then we just had you on from Tel Aviv. So all over the world, we've got community going on in different ways. Thanks for hopping on today here, Benjamin. I'm sure you've got a lot of events where people can see you in person today. And so thanks for being on with us. And you can also follow on Twitter at Vonage Dev. Let me put a link to that into chat before you're like, hey, how do I find in that stuff? But I'll put it out into chat. 1 second here. So we get that out into the chat for you. So Thursday, April 14th, we are wrapping up episode 3, Community Hour from London to Tel Aviv. Just spent a good deal of time with Benjamin, hearing about their career from Jack Dorsey all the way to Tel Aviv over at Vonage, doing some amazing work there. Heard amazing community stories. So Benjamin, thank you for that. Thanks to everybody that's watching here today. Episode 3 of Community Hour is done. See you again next week at this time on Thursday, April. What is next week? I've already even forgotten when next week is. The 21st. Yeah. April 21st. See you again next week. Have a great Thursday, everyone. Have a great day, Benjamin, and talk to everybody soon.